like how much BPA and phthalates and things. And those were challenging because number one, nobody was motivated to do it until recently. And nobody was, saying it was a problem and things. Again, like a lot of the professional scientists, the toxicologists are saying, oh, it's okay. It's not a problem. It's not toxic. So it's not a problem. It's not killing people. So it's not a problem. It's causing a lot of hormone problems, but they were saying, oh, they were just ignoring that. Because toxicology is looking for toxic levels, right? Like I said, but the Mosaic Diagnostics has an awesome test if people want to do that, if they want to get to that level. Um, but I think if you're doing the basic stuff, like if you're filtering your drinking water, you're not using crazy sunscreens with crazy chemicals and fragrances and all that stuff, you're fine. Again, like I don't get too worked up about it. If it's just nobody's doing that, what I mean? Especially in 2017 when I wrote my book, nobody was doing any of that stuff. People were, bragging about their car fragrances and stuff, and people are plugging fragrances into their outlets, those little fragrancer things like you literally plug it in the outlet and the whole room has this crazy smell. And I was looking at the ingredients and those kind of things and saying like, what in the hell is this nonsense? And people were bragging about it and saying like how fragrance helps their health and all this stuff. And it's like, yeah, if it's good fragrance, but the problem is most of it was garbage. So yes, you can do some testing if you really want to go that route, and I certainly recommend hormone testing for anybody just to have a sense, but most of it is just, it's hard. You can't really measure bioaccumulation of plastics in your body, right? You can. I mean, you can go to the clinic and get involved in an actual scientific study where they take biopsies and they're looking at different parts of your body and how much plastic is built up. But there's no study. I mean, that's the problem, right? That's why you have to take the research and assume if 100% of people have microplastics, you're probably in that group. You know what I mean?
That's a good assumption. So, but is there anything in our bodies like, that, a skin issue or, or cognitive issues that present clinically as opposed to taking a test? Or is it we only are seeing it in our blood and are assuming that there are some long-term consequences, but we're not sure what they are? Like, what are the actual physical manifestation of this
Yeah.
toxicity?
Um, there's a lot of them. I mean, infertility, like I say, like bone density is going down as a whole throughout our country. The obesity is increasing. And again, it's not just a calorie. If you mess up your hormones, like in these animal studies, if you alter their hormones, they get obese, right? With the same calories. It's pretty wild. Because all you ever hear from dietitians is like, you just got to count your calories, and a calorie is a calorie. And it doesn't matter what kind of calories you're eating as long as you count your calories. And that's not true at all. Because if you mess up your hormones, all of a sudden you've got obesity in these animals. And we are definitely messing up our hormones. Um, it's yeah, it's all of the things, right? It's declining fertility, it's depression. They did a study with children and they looked at BPA in their urine, like how much they're peeing out. And it was like a straight line of like as the BPA went up in their urine, the depression levels went up. And children shouldn't even have depression because they don't have car loans and they're not paying for houses and they don't have all this crazy stress and all these depressing things sometimes, taxes. But here you are with a group of kids that has depression, and then sure enough, every one of those kids is super high BPA in their urine, right? So there's brain impacts, and
Mhm.
ultimately it comes from the hormones, right? But it's hard because hormones fluctuate a lot, right? Like it's hard to pin this stuff down. That's why you have to use the research. Because if the research shows that everybody is inundated with these chemicals, they're additive, they're accumulating in our bodies, and they're causing depression, obesity, bone density issues, on and on and on, pretty much anything that's related to sex hormone disruption, well, then you're going to have to extrapolate that that's relevant to any individual health. But yeah, it's not causing, that's almost the problem, right? The problem is it doesn't cause a headache. You know what I mean? Like the problem is it doesn't cause a rash or something. So people are like, oh, it's fine because it didn't get a headache when when I drank out of plastics, right? I didn't get a rash. The problem is for humans want something that's immediately noticeable, right? Like it's just the way our brains are wired. We want to see some immediate reaction. Otherwise, we're just going to assume it's fine. That's what our ancestors did for thousands of years, and it worked for them because if they ate some poison ivy or something, or they touched poison ivy, they got a rash. If they ate some kind of poisonous seed or something, they probably puked. And that's how our brains are kind of wired. But now, all of a sudden, we're pulling up like trillions of gallons of oil and we're converting it into all these weird chemicals and making plastics that have never before been seen by our ancestors for thousands of years. And then we're like, oh, look, it doesn't hurt me because you're not getting a rash from it. And then 10 years later, your health is just completely wrecked and your fertility is wrecked. and then the doctors are mystified and they're calling it idiopathic. Like you've heard this term idiopathic. It basically means we don't know what it is. Well, yeah, we kind of know what it is, but it's accumulation of a lot of different aspects that our modern society has that we never had as in our ancestral history.
It sounds very analogous to smoking. You know, people, young smokers will be like, I'm fine, I don't feel
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
And, you
Yeah.
know, it doesn't show
Good
up.
point.
I've been smoking for 50 years. I still don't have anything until they do. So,
Yeah.
what about alternatives? So, you know, my son is obsessed with, you know, these scents and those exact plug-in things that you're talking about. For a home fragrance, for example, what would be something that people can use? They want to freshen up their home that isn't toxic.
Oh, essential oils are good. I mean, there's actual products that they sell for diffusing essential oils and things like that, and I'm a big fan. Like I have a diffuser, and um, if it's something coming, I mean, plants have healing properties, right? Like there's a lot of positive things that are coming from plant compounds that our ancestors probably knew more about than we do. I have a medical doctor friend from China. He's an MD and a PhD from China, but he worked at Mayo Clinic when I was there, and I took him deer hunting one time and stuff because he'd never been hunting. He never shot a gun because guns are illegal in China and all this sort of thing. So it was pretty fun. But he told me, because he's a good friend, he told me that in China they've got a database of thousands, probably millions of studies, tens of thousands for sure, of studies on plant medicine and plant compounds, and none of them are translated to English. It's all just like behind like a government paywall basically where only they can access it. And so they have a lot of knowledge. There's a lot of interesting studies and things, but we don't tap into that in America. We kind of ignore that because our system is kind of set up around the pharma drugs and around petroleum products, and even our fragrances are kind of set up that way. Meaning there's probably a ton of untapped knowledge on all these essential oils and these fragrances that are super good for us, and then these companies are just making the cheapest possible alternatives with the cheapest possible ingredients that are very sketchy and problematic. So I think if you can trust the company and the fragrance, it's probably good. It might actually straight up be healthy for you in certain ways that are really unique.
Great, thank you. Along the same lines as a replacement, you said avoid polyester sheets and underwear. What are things, people love like the stretchiness and all that
Yep.
kind of stuff. I mean, I don't know if you've worked out substitutes or have anything like that on your website. What are good substitutes for those types of things and clothing in general? I mean, I think most clothing I see have polyester in it. I imagine,
Yep.
your shirt, I'm sure the shirt has polyester in it.
Mine doesn't. This one's
You're
pure
gonna come
cotton.
back and have no shirt on later, audience. Just
Well,
know why.
it's a long game, right? Yeah,
Wh-
you're playing the long game because your health is the long game. But this is cotton. It's 100% cotton. You have to buy them a little bit more often. These undershirts and stuff, if they're cotton versus polyester, because they kind of degrade a little bit more. But that's a plant. Cotton is a plant. They grow it down south in America. In my underwear, I just make sure it's cotton, right? Like, there's nothing wrong with that. And there's some compounds that aren't full of phthalates and things, but uh, polyester is notoriously just rich with phthalates. I mean, there's literally every molecule in a polyester it's just like BPA. What's funny? Did you know BPA? I didn't mention this, but BPA was invented as birth control in the 1930s. There was a scientist named Charles Edward Dodds, and he created this compound called diethylstilbestrol, DES, DES. And then from that compound, he made BPA. And the whole idea was to make a contraception that he could sell. But then they discovered it can be used as plastic. And then they just went and ran with that. But when they first invented BPA plastic, all the scientists agreed, like the science is settled, it doesn't leach, it's safe and all this kind of thing. And of course, now we know it leaches like crazy and it's not safe at all. It's really bad for your hormones. But there's kind of this history of, uh, you know, it's okay, it doesn't leach, and then you kind of step back a little bit and you realize like, oh, it's a real problem. As we do more research studies, especially as we get better with the technology and measuring nanograms and things like that, because hormones act in our bodies at the nanogram level, right? Um, so, um, oh, I forgot. I'm sorry, I forgot about the original question there, where I was
The
going.
the original, well, I forgot, I forgot the original.
That
But
BPA, the birth control thing was so interesting. We
well,
both
that's
got.
actually what I wanted. That's actually where I wanted to take you is birth control. I think I read at some point that like 98% of all women have at one time been on birth control. Obviously, it's in so many, human bodies of the people that we care about, our daughters, our wives, our mothers, our sisters, friends, family. Um, what are what are the consequences of that? How is, how do you can you detoxify it? Can you what is the damage in the short term? What is the damage in the long term? And can you undo it, and how so, if that's possible?
Yeah, I mean, it's just another artificial man-made estrogen, right? So, oh, I'm sorry. I'll circle back to the birth control question. I just remembered from somebody's
Okay.
comment that we were talking about cotton, and I
Yeah.
was
Okay.
saying polyester. Like I was gonna relate the BPA, or the BPA was invented as birth control, and then they made it into plastic, and they were like, it's okay, it doesn't leach, it's totally safe, everybody's fine with BPA. You can have loads of BPA, it's fine. And then all of a sudden now it's like, oh my gosh, BPA is really bad. Polyester is the same thing, where it's like, oh, it's fine, it's just polyester, it's no big deal, it's real stretchy, it's sweat, it breathes really well when you wear it. And then the research is slowly coming out and saying like, oh my gosh, it's full of phthalates, because BPA is, it's not a monomer, it's a chain of BPAs. The way they argued this a long time ago is they said it's okay, BPA doesn't leach because it's all linked together. You know what I mean? It's not a monomer, it's a polymer, meaning like all the chemistry is linked together. It's not like a single sugar, it's like a chain of sugars. It's a chain of BPAs. So they said it's okay, it doesn't leach. And they're doing the same darn thing with polyester. It's such a pattern that you see. It's like, oh, the science is settled, it's totally safe. It's a chain of polyester molecules, so they're not going to leach. And then you start looking at sweat data and stuff, and it's like all over, we're just leaching in it. But our bodies are so saturated with microplastics as it is, it's hard to pick it up on tests, because it's like, is it the polyester, or are we just having tons of plastics from our liquids and all this other stuff? But going back to the birth control, um, I'm not a fan. I mean, I write about it in my book. I write a lot about it, but I'm a bigger fan of like fertility awareness methods and that sort of thing. But the good thing about birth control is they actually did a lot of research. I mean, it is very well studied. And obviously there's some marketing involved and some manipulation. Like, in other words, whenever there's money to be made on pharmaceutical products, they're always going to spin the positives and underplay the negatives. So if you dig into the research, there's definitely some negatives, but it's not overwhelming. It's not extremely bad. I think it's just another contributor to estrogen dominance. And I'm not saying, estrogen, natural estrogen. I'm saying artificial estrogen dominance, meaning it's just 1 + 1 + 1 eventually equals 10. And it's hard, right? It's hard to do a study on birth control properly, just like it's hard to do a study on soy, and it's hard to do a study on anything, because our bodies are just so overwhelmed with all these estrogen mimicking chemicals. It's hard to piece out which ones are bad and which ones are good. And so it can be a little deceptive, right? It's hard. But we know for sure it acts like estrogen. I mean, there's no doubt. And we know for sure it's synthetic. Like the birth control estrogen is called ethinyl estradiol. It's not estradiol, it's ethinyl estradiol. It's synthetic. It's literally made, it's designed to stay in our bodies longer.